Hello beautiful, welcome back to my channel and welcome to, for me and for some people, the most exciting video of the year. This is going to be me ranking every palette that I have tried and reviewed that have been released this year, ranking them from, let's be honest, absolute trash, buyer beware, I do not wish these on my worst enemy, to the absolute tippity top, the best palettes that have been released this year, and we're just gonna go through them. And I have 104 different positions to go through, which is a lot. Some of the positions are gonna have more than one palette because I'm ranking them together. Maybe they were part of the same collection, maybe they were released at the same time. Who knows? Who knows? But I will put the exact amount of palettes that I'm actually reviewing and actually ranking here. But just know we're starting at 104 because some of them are coming together. But I'm excited. I hope you're excited. Let's jump in. Just a little housekeeping before we get into it. Pretty much all of these palettes I have either dedicated videos on or tutorials on or swatches on. There's going to be something on these palettes on my channel. So if you're interested in seeing any kind of tutorials, any kind of swatches, all you have to do is go back to my YouTube page and there is a magnifying glass and there you can search for the palette in case you want to see more. I will try and show swatches of maybe top 15 palettes. I will show swatches. Some of these brands I have affiliate codes with. If you're interested in purchasing any of these palettes, make sure to check my description box down below. I will put all the affiliate codes or affiliate links that I have to these brands in case you are interested. If I helped you with any of your purchasing decisions and you end up supporting my channel through an affiliate code or an affiliate link, thank you so much for supporting my channel. It really does help out. Before we get into the actual reviewing part or the actual ranking, I just wanted to let you know some of the palettes that I will not be including because I feel like I'm going to be very biased. And first is going to be my collab palettes that I did together with Oden. This is the Trick or Treat palette. Like, look at this beauty. Look at how gorgeous this palette is. It is so stunning. Obviously, I think so because I created it. Because I did it. And this one is the little ghost palette. So we did two different palettes. Look at this. Look at how gorgeous this is. So yummy. So these two palettes, I'm not going to be including them because obviously I think that the palettes that I decided myself everything on, obviously they're my favorites, so it feels a little bad to include them because I mean these are my favorite palettes of the year. It is what it is. As I'm filming these, they are still available. Absolutely love these, but I'm not going to be including them because it would be boring if we sat through, like, I'm sure this is going to be an hour-long video and at the end it's like my palettes. Like, that wouldn't be fun. Same with this one. This is the Resurgent palette that my friend Heather Austin did with Unearthly Cosmetics. I love Heather. I talk to Heather every day. I just went on vacation with Heather. I've celebrated Christmas with Heather and her family. She's one of my absolute closest friends, so I am very, very biased. I think she did such an amazing job with this palette. It is grungy, it is colorful, it has contrast, it is beautiful. Clearly, I love it. Clearly, I love it. I think it's absolutely stunning. Fairly sure this one is available as well. Just wanted to let you know that I won't be including those because I'm a little just a smidgen biased, and I want to be honest. So without further ado, let's start, and let's start with the absolute bottom. This is going to be position number 104, probably one of the worst eyeshadow palettes I've ever tried in my life. This is the Tarte Big Eagle, which is a very funny name to have for something that literally there should be no ego involved whatsoever with this one. It sucks. It really sucks. I tried a Tarte palette. It was like the mini jewel palette in 2022. Really love the palette. It ranked really high last year, and yeah, I do these videos every year. It ranked really high, so I ended up purchasing two Tarte palettes this year, hoping they were going to be the same. They were not. This one, dry, patchy, absolutely impossible to blend. I do not wish this one on anyone. If you're looking to buy a good palette at like mainstream brands, this should not be your option. It's really not good at all. This is the LA Girl Foreplay. I have mine in Cowgirl. So this is like two shimmers and two mattes. This is very mediocre. The mattes are okay, but the shimmers, very mediocre. They're dry, they're crusty. They almost have a weird texture where they don't stick to the eyes. You can get much better eyeshadow at an affordable price. That definitely is not it. Next position we have, I am gonna forget which positions we are at, so I'm just popping up a number here on the side where you can see yourself, because there's no way when we get into like 72, I'm already lost. I'm already lost now. These are the eyeshadows from Jason Wu. I tried a CC cream from Jason Wu, and I really liked it. And I liked it, so I wanted to try out more things from the brand. Some things are good, some things not so much. The eyeshadows, again, mediocre. Pretty mediocre. The one that I like the most is probably this one that's called, what is it called? Flora? Is it called that? It could be called Flora. Honestly, I have no idea. It's the Pastel 9 pan. The mattes, sheer, boring. The shimmers, they're pretty nice for like pastel shimmers, but again, they're a little underwhelming. You can do better than that. And next is actually going to be a ColourPop palette, and this is the Lavish palette. This one came out very earlier this year, and I feel like ColourPop usually does really good purple palettes, but I don't know what happened here. I thought it was not very pigmented. I thought it was pretty dry, not super easy to build on, not super easy to blend. The shimmers were not super exciting either. Just something about this, I just wasn't impressed. It was not the ColourPop that I know and love. And I will say, there will be a couple of palettes like that, where I'm just telling you the brand can do better. The brand can do better. By the way, if you're interested in seeing my palette declutter and seeing all of my collection, new palettes, old palettes, and you can see which of these are actually decluttered, tomorrow. It's coming tomorrow. This is the Lethal Cosmetics 2 Up palette. This is a colorful palette. I like the color story. I love colorful makeup. I did film this eye look. I actually used a palette I'm not going to be ranking today. Some palettes I'm not going to be including here because I honestly, they're new in my collection. I haven't been able to review them. So I will rank those in just a monthly ranking that's coming in January instead. I'm wearing the new Lethal Cosmetics, that like, it's not a night mod, it's like a midnight serenade. I did like a short or a tutorial or something. If I have it, I will link it down below or in the pinned comment. I will link it somewhere if I have it edited, but I like the makeup look a lot. This, same here. Lethal Cosmetics has done so much better. This quality, wow. This quality, meh. Same here. This is the ColourPop and Naruto palette. This, I feel like, was disappointing for two different reasons. One of them being this isn't their best quality. Second is that they've already done this color story, but a similar color story with the Cora palette that we're going to see in quite some time that has really good quality. Not like this. This is like, this is mediocre. The Cora one, great quality. And also the color story is better. And they also did a similar color story with the Avatar: The Last Airbender. Again, better color story, amazing quality. This one was just like, it's like leftovers. Naruto got the leftovers. And I feel the same about this one. This is the ColourPop Wonderland? Lost in Wonderland. First of all, I don't love the color story. I think the color story is a little weird. There are 3 dark shades and they're all like shimmery metallic. This is a black with shimmer. The color story is a little off. It's not super easy to create with. And also this isn't the best ColourPop quality that ColourPop can do. I don't feel like this is it. And I feel the same with this Gloss Gods palette. This is the Your Forever Love. I thought that this formula was okay. There's nothing wrong with it, but the mattes are a little sheer. They're not super pigmented. And I thought the shimmers were, again, they were okay. And Gloss Gods have done a lot of really nice palettes. I just don't feel like this one was that. This is something where I'm coming back to the brand has done better. This is the Natasha Denona Love Face palette. The thing that I love the most in this palette is actually the highlighter here. Because this was a really nice, almost like a jelly, borderline putty highlighter. I thought it was really beautiful, and this is the thing that I love the most about this palette. The eyeshadows are okay, but I will say these mattes are, especially this dark one, it's not as good as Natasha Denona dark matte shadows usually are. The highlighter is beautiful though, and the reason why I kept this one and the other face palette, like face eye palette from Natasha Denona, is because I love the highlighters. But this is the same formula as she has in her My Perfect Face palette. I think My Dream Face palette, that's what it's called. Love it. Absolutely love it. I hope she comes out with more in this formula. So this one, for me, I don't like cheek products and eye products together. I know other people do. And I also think that like this isn't the formula that I know and love. Okay, Urban Decay. I got one PR package from Urban Decay this year, and it was the Naked Smiley palettes. I just think the packaging, super adorable. Like, honestly, 10 out of 10. I even have a dedicated video on these. The color stories, I like the idea of this one because there is something about having a bright blue next to a bright yellow that makes me very happy. But when you use these, let me open the other one as well. It's a little bit more of a berry shade, or like a berry color tone. When you use these, you realize that like they're not super easy to use. At least not the way that I like to do my makeup, which is a matte in the crease. I'm about to turn 40. I like having a matte in my crease because I feel like that helps. But these are just... the color stories, they're cute in the palette, but not super easy to wear and use on the eyes, in my humble opinion. Also, like, Urban Decay is falling behind a little bit on quality. I heard a lot of people really like that new Naked palette, though. I didn't try that one. These were just meh. They're a little meh. Then we have the Natasha Denona Mini Pastel palette. Again, I really like Natasha Denona quality, and I like the quality of this palette, but I will say it's 4 shimmers and a matte, and I like this one, but not on its own. This one together with something else is great, but I will not be the person that just does one matte. Again, I want mattes in my crease. That's how I like to do my makeup, and I also feel like it's not necessarily 100% obvious which shades go together, and this, and this are more like traditional shimmer shades, and this is more of a very sparkly, almost slightly duochrome. I just think that this is a little, I don't want to say basic, but when it comes to formulas, it's a little basic. Again, Natasha Denona has done better. You will see some palettes that are quite up there. This is something that I actually, when I first reviewed this one in the beginning of the year, I want to say, this is the Huda Beauty mattes. I really didn't like them, but I've used them again since, and I've actually grown to think that they are pretty nice. The thing that makes me not love these is that I think that this one, even though it's 9 matte shades, none of them is an inner corner highlight on my skin tone. Again, is that a big problem? No, but it makes it a little annoying because I love doing all matte looks, and there's not like something that's light enough for that. And also these cream shadows are not my favorite cream formula because I feel like there's a learning curve with them. The first 2 times I used them, they creased badly on me. The 3rd time I used them, they didn't crease, but I also wasn't super impressed with them. They're not, if I build them up so they're opaque, they crease. So I think that these are good, but they're not my favorite matte palettes, but I like the idea of them. Just didn't love the cream shadows, and I wish there was a little bit more contrast, especially in this one. One more ColourPop palette. I almost feel a little bad, but same here. This is the ColourPop Dreams Come True. This is the collaboration with Snow White. I love this packaging. I think it's so cute. Color story, it's not very user-friendly. This is what I wanted. Okay, let me rephrase. A lot of times when I see palettes that are done in collaboration, people are like, where's the yellow for this? Where's the blue for that? What's the... You know, when you do that, when you pull like colors directly from characters and put them in a palette, you get this, an unusable palette with colors that don't really go together. And I sometimes wish that like collabs are just so much better when you do like the essence of a movie, the essence of, instead of just cherry picking shades, because what looks good on Snow White in her dress doesn't really work together as an eyeshadow palette, because you have like the blue, the red, the yellow, and her skin tone, I guess. And it's just, it doesn't make a cohesive look. So I think with this one, it is mainly the color story that's falling short, because I'm like, I didn't feel creative at all with this one. The only thing that I really like about this palette is that there is it's called Ever After. It's like a Super Shock shadow that has a peachy sheen, which is also beautiful as a highlighter. So it's like a 2-in-1, which is great. This is going to be the first palette from Game Beauty that we see. This is Phantom Thieves palette. They did a collaboration with Persona 5, I think it's called. This is one of the palettes. The other one that's called Metaverse is going to be further on, because I really like that one. This one is more of a typical rainbow palette. I like it, but I don't love it. But the other ones, they have released some really nice palettes this year. Next palette I'm going to mention is actually the Grease T-Birds palette that they, oh, I think it's over here, that they did together with Makeup Revolution. I didn't dislike this palette at all. I thought the quality was really decent. It swatches pretty weak, but like when you use it, it looks really pretty on the eyes. I thought this was a really decent palette. Packaging is awful, but I mean, for what you're paying, it's a pretty decent one. And then we have the first Blend Money palette of the day. This is the Blend Money Cosmetics Forget Me Not palette. This opens like a book like this, and it is a eyeshadow and contour palette. This is leaning pretty cool tone neutral, and I have more of a warm skin tone. I don't know if you can see that, like, really any of these shades would be a good contour shade on me. I don't like contouring with like gray tone shades. I think the shades that are down at the bottom are really, really pretty highlighters, but this palette just isn't for me. Also, it has like bigger pans. If I was still doing freelance makeup work on people, this would have been great, but I'm not. I'm not doing that, so it doesn't like make any sense for me personally. Kaleidos released 2 more quads this year. I really hope this is the Twilight Rush. It's just so boring. I'm sorry. And I feel like parts of it, this is Venus Trap. Parts why I feel like this is boring is because I feel like I've seen this from Kaleidos. And that's what I wanted to say. I really hope that 2024 is the year where Kaleidos just releases something else. It doesn't have to be a full palette. It doesn't have to be colorful. It doesn't have to be any of that. I just would like to not see this kind of a quad for a little bit. Just something a little different. I'm bored. I'm bored and I want to see something else. Sue me. This is the Electric palette by Melt Cosmetics. I have had an on and off relationship with Melt Cosmetics now for a couple of years. This one, I feel like they changed the formula. And I feel like they changed the shimmer formula for the better and the matte formula for the worse. I feel like these mattes are thinner, sheerer, not as grippy, not as pigmented. I just didn't like them as much as I usually like the Melt mattes. The shimmers are better though. But I think that this palette overall, I was underwhelmed. I was underwhelmed. This is the LH Cosmetics Basic Elements. I don't know where that one is. I don't know if I gave it away, but I also had another LH Cosmetics palette that was called Aim Higher. I'll pop in a picture. That one should probably be ranked around here as well because it was very cool toned and I usually don't do all gray palettes. But this one is a quad with 4 basically like metals. It's like copper, gold, silver, and then LH. Oh well, LH Cosmetics. Is that why? Did I get the joke now, like 1 year later? This is nice, but it's very basic. I don't need a quad of 4 metallics in my life. There's nothing wrong with it, but I'm like not super impressed. This is the Tarte Maneater, and this is the other Tarte palette that I bought. This is okay, but it's nowhere near as nice as that palette that I loved from last year. I thought it was okay. This is like a mini of that big palette that people were gushing over, and I don't know if this is the same quality as that one or not, but I definitely don't think that this is like gush worthy. Okay, this is going to be controversial because this is very, very far down on the list. Do not click out, don't unsubscribe, don't hate me. I just wasn't impressed. This is the Natasha Denona Xenon palette. I just feel like this looks like one of those like sneak peeks when they're showing the palette in black and white before they're showing the actual colors. And when this one is being described, they're describing this one as having pinks and blues, and I'm like, not even when I'm looking at it now can I see that. I have to pull out some really special lighting. Some really special lighting to be able to see any pinks or blues in this one. I just think that this is 50 Shades of Grey. Except just less exciting than 50 Shades of Grey. Quality is great though. I just don't think this needed to be a big palette. A lot of them look very similar on the eyes. This is the Moonfall palette by Shroud Cosmetics. Overall, I think the colors in here are beautiful, but I did have some problems blending some of these mattes out. And the main reason is that they're all very dark and there were none of these shades that really blended out. They needed a lighter shade. And I also thought that the mattes from Shroud, something has happened. They've become very dry. It's not my absolute favorite, but the shimmers are incredible. Like incredible shimmers. But there's another palette that I think have even better shimmers, and we'll talk about that in just a little bit. This is the ColourPop and Winx Club. This is when I'm starting to feel a little old because I literally have no idea about this, did not watch this one. I think this show was for people who were born in like late 90s, which is not me. This is what it looks like. I kind of like this one. It is a colorful palette. I think that this had some really fun shades. I wish that one of them was a little darker. Again, not everybody wants dark eyeshadows. I like that there is some contrast though, even though it is like just light shades. But I like these shades. I think the main reason why this isn't higher is because there are two of those like glittery shades here, which are not my absolute favorite. But I think that this one, it was decent. It was good. Next, we're coming to a palette that I really think has good quality. And this is the Glamlite and Hershey Milk Chocolate Bar. I know that Glamlite did a collaboration with Hershey Kisses last year. And if you saw my ranking from last year, you know I wasn't very impressed with those. So I'm very, very pleased to let you know that the quality this year is great. It smells very faintly sweet, very faintly. The quality of this is beautiful, but a couple of these shades look a little similar on the eyes. There could have been a little bit more contrast in this one, but the quality is nice, but just won't be my favorite neutral palette. Here we have a neutral palette that I actually liked more than I thought I would, and this is the Natasha Denona Mini Starlet palette. I was surprised at how much I like this palette, and I am fairly sure that this is the palette that I called bridal makeup when I used it. If you like the idea of the Natasha Denona I Need a Nude palette, which we will talk about in a bit, if you like the idea of that one but think it's too expensive, or you don't know if you're gonna like the Natasha Denona quality, the Mini Starlet is the similar vibe as that palette. A little peachy, neutral, bridal moment, just smaller and more affordable. I think these are like 25, 28 or something. And the Mini Starlet, I liked it. I thought it was good. Okay, here comes the Shroud palette that I think has better shimmers. This is the Peaches and Dreams palette. And these shimmers are really, really, really nice. Again, the mattes, not my absolute favorites. Not my absolute favorites. There's gonna be a couple of palettes today where I'm a matte girly. I'm a little bit picky when it comes to mattes. And the shimmers, beautiful. Mattes are okay. And you're gonna hear that again with a couple of palettes, like this one. This is the Warlock palette by Fantasy Cosmetica. Love the front. Love the front. Giving me the fell feelings. I think the metallics in this one, especially this one, it is like a red to a green. Ooh, it is so beautiful. The metallics in this one, they're incredible. They're stunning. They're beautiful. The mattes, not my favorite. Not only do I think the mattes in the other, because we're going to talk about some more Fantasy Cosmetica palettes, way better mattes. I also feel like some of these undertones don't jive 100% with each other, which is a shame. So I think in theory, this is a good palette, but it just ended up being not my favorite. This is the ABH palette that I tried this year. This is the Cosmos palette. I think this is okay. I'm just a little bit uninspired by this one, and I tried using it again in a video, and I just turned, again, a little bit uninspired, so I ended up not using it. I just feel like when I look at this, I'm like, oh, ABH tried to do some special shades. And I mean, if I wanted special shades, just get this one. It has great shimmers. I don't know. It's okay. There's nothing bad with it. I'm just not super impressed. This is going to be the palette from Florasis that I tried this year. This is the Soaring Sunlight palette, and it has like almost like a orange topper. You can use this as an orange blush, which I did when I used this in a video, or you can use it as a topper on your eyeshadows. This is a really, really fun, a little bit more colorful look. And there's a couple of like toppers in here, and there's a couple of more opaque shades. The matte shades from Florasis I think are really beautiful to work with. They have more of a, almost like with how luxury makeup is, which is more like a buildable formula. I think it's easy to work with. I thought this palette was really good. I like the shades right in here, especially this one is super icy, like minty shade. It's a really nice one. This is one of my unexpected ones. I usually, as you saw in the beginning, don't love eyeshadow from the drugstore. But I will say this palette specific, this is the only palette that I've tried from the brand. So I have only tried this palette from the brand, but this is the Honeybee palette. So rude. I like this. This is from Lotte London. You can find this at Walmart. I found this online at Walmart as well. This is nice, especially these two yellow mattes. They're really, really nice. I had a lot of fun with this palette. I think this is a very nice palette. If you wanted to try some warm, yummy mustards from the drugstore, definitely recommend this one. Again, you can find it at Walmart. It's very affordable, and I thought it was good. I mean, good enough to be this high up in the ranking. Now we're coming into something really good quality. Just not my color story, but I do like this one more than I like the Xenon palette. This is the Ghost Face palette from Glamlight, because I feel like this one actually has some different undertones. Here you can see it's like a green with a gray lavender sheen. It's like a duochrome that really just works together with these. You have a gray with like a plummy undertone. You have a gray with almost like an olive undertone. There are some different undertones here that I just feel like the Natasha Nona palette was missing. And also this one, it's a gray with like purple shimmer in it. There's just a little bit more variation in this Glamlight palette than there was in the palette from Natasha Nona. I feel like the Natasha Nona one, if she had just turned it up one more notch, she could have created something truly interesting. And I personally just feel like it fell a little flat. This is the first palette from What's Up Beauty that I've tried. Look at this packaging. The packaging is so stunning. This is the Dragon Eye palette. And unfortunately, I don't think the color story really matches this like super intriguing outside. It's a nice color story, but it's only the shimmers that are truly like colorful. The mattes are all pretty neutral, and I just wish that maybe an olive green would have been nice in here, maybe a lavender matte, like something a little bit more kooky. I know that What's Up Beauty does more on the neutral, like neutral-ish palettes, but when you do a cover like this, you might get some complaints if this doesn't match what's going on in here. They also have that kind of a super silky smooth mattes that are very easy to pick up and very easy to blend, but not necessarily super easy to make incredibly pigmented on the eyes. I know some people love mattes like that almost feels like silk or like flower on your fingers. I prefer something that has a little bit more grit than that, a little bit more like go than that. But if you prefer that, you will love the What's Up Beauty mattes. Here's the ColourPop palette that I thought was really nice. This is the Welcome Foolish Mortals. This is the collaboration between ColourPop and the Haunted Mansion. I went on the Haunted Mansion ride for the first time this year, and I was able to see whether or not I think that this one actually matched the ride. And I think overall it really did. They did try to pull in all of those different elements. Maybe this one here, that was probably supposed to look a little bit like that greenish sheen that like the ghosts have. Maybe there could have been, either this could have been a little brighter to truly show that, or maybe there could have been another shade in here to truly be that like the yellow greenish glow that the ghosts have. But overall, I think this palette is really nice. Again, there are two more glittery shades in here. Not my favorites, I'm gonna be honest, but I still thought that this palette was fun. And I like the look that I filmed with it, the one that I had here on YouTube. I thought that one was really nice. This one is the Wheat Belt palette by Geology Cosmetics. They did, I don't know if they changed manufacturer or if they changed packaging designer. I don't love this bulky packaging the way that I love the original palette packaging. It was so slim and so nice, and this just feels like a box of chocolates without the chocolates inside. The color story is really nice though. I love that it is matte heavy. I think the matte formula and like the shimmer formula overall is good but not perfect. It is a good formula, but not my absolute favorite. It's just something about the packaging just makes this not my favorite. Oh, you get very glowy during this process, okay? Now we're starting to get at some really, really good palettes, but they weren't necessarily my color stories. One of them being the Gourmande Cosmetics Sugar and Spice. This is more of a almost cool tone neutral palette with some special shades and pops of pastels, and I love pastels, but personally none of these matte shades here are really my favorite for the crease. I didn't mind the quality at all. It just wasn't my favorite color story. Again, if you love cool tone neutrals and you want to have a bit of an unusual pop with the pastels, this is a really nice one. It just wasn't perfect for me. This is the Disney's Beauty and the Beast palette. It's a nice palette, but it's a little tame for me. But I will say, this matte formula, it's really nice. I'm very impressed with this matte formula. We will talk about another one of the Sigma palettes in a bit as well. And this is the Nomad Okawanga Safari palette. Love this packaging, love the theming. It's like a safari themed palette, and I really like how this looks, but I wish there was something that was a little bit more contrasty, because this is more like mid-tone shades, most of them. They're 2 dark shades and then just a lot of mid-tones. It's a nice palette. Again, not my absolute favorite. And I got a couple of shades like, I think this one specifically, that was a little too hard pressed in my palette. But I heard others that didn't have a problem at all with that one. But it was easy to pick up, especially I picked it up with my EO1 from Cinch, my own beauty brand. If you're interested, there's always a link down below in case you want to check out what I'm doing with my brand. But it wasn't my favorite Nomad palette. I have a bunch others that I like way more. This is an all shimmer palette from Clionadh. This is the Deep Sea Treasures palette. Treasures palette. I love Clionadh stained glass shadows, but this was an all shimmer palette, and even though I love stained glass shadows, it's still an all shimmer palette. So for me, this is just never gonna be my favorite. But I gotta say, especially this one, Shipwreck, it is like a red to a like midnight purple. It's really nice. This is the Adept Cosmetics Cimmerian Sunset palette. It is a little bit Star Trek inspired. I'm all about that. And I really like the color story of this one, but I will say the mattes weren't my favorite. They were not the shades that I would have picked. Again, they're all on me pretty mid-tone. These aren't dark enough to be dark enough for my liking in the outer corner, and neither of these two are an inner corner highlight for me. So they just ended up being a companion palette for me, which happens sometimes. I did buy that other palette from Adept Cosmetics, the Alien palette. I haven't gotten it yet. I don't even think my order has shipped yet, but I did buy it. Hopefully I'll get it soon, and I'm not including it here, but I'm excited to receive it. Here's the Colourpop palette that I thought had really good quality. This is the Pretty Please palette. This is like a cool tone mauve palette. If you like shades like this, if you're looking at this and you're like, wow, I would get good use out of this, this is good quality. 1 row of Super Shocks, 1 row of mattes with shimmer in them, and Colourpop does those immaculate. 1 row of metallics and 1 row of mattes. Really good palette, especially this shade here. It's called Pearly. It is so nice. So not my favorite color story, but this is good quality. Really like it. And I feel the same about this one. This is the Huda Beauty Pretty Grunge, and I feel like this is probably the gray tone palette of the year that I think has done the theme the best, because again, there are some gray shades and there are some cool tone shades, but for me, I don't want the pure gray, so for me, this is enough. This is cool tone enough for me as someone who doesn't like gray eyeshadows and as someone who has a warmer undertone. This is perfect for me. I also love that there's like this really nice burgundy duochrome shimmer in here. That's really nice. I thought this palette was good. Not my favorite color story, and I will say I do prefer the Natasha Denona formula over this. My personal opinion, but I prefer this color story over the Xenon any day of the week. This is the Didi's Signature, the Classic Autumn palette. I love shades like this. Warm, yummy, almost like warm fall grungy colors. I just think they look good on me, and it's just colors that I really enjoy. And I also really enjoy that there are classic like foily metallics here. The mattes are nice. Again, we're gonna hear that with a couple of more palettes. The mattes are nice, not my absolute favorite, but I definitely think they're workable. It's just that when I would mention like what are my favorite mattes, these wouldn't be that, but I like the color story, and I like that there's a really nice silver in here as well. I thought this one was really good. Here's a neutral. What neutral palette this year is the highest ranked? It's not this one, but it's up there. This is the Fighter palette, another one from Fantasy Cosmetica. I think this is a really interesting. neutral palette. There is a mustard, there is a gray, and there's also 2 browns, one more neutral, one more cool tone, and then there's some really interesting duochromes in here that just gives a lot of dimension. This like almost eggplant color with like gold shimmer. There is a duochrome up here, like you can see it's like a warmer base with like a blue silver sparkles. If you like in neutrals and you want to try an indie brand and you're thinking that, oh, all indie brands do like really colorful eyeshadows, I definitely think you should check this one out. You might really like it. I usually don't do big palettes, and there's gonna be a couple of palettes that quite literally the only reason why they're not ranked on top is because they're big. That's not what she said. This is a Smoking Hot by Colourpop. Again, I love me a good, warm, yummy color story. Listen, Beauty Guru Ara 2017, I love me an orange eyeshadow. Don't come for me. And I think the quality of these shadows are really nice. But some of these are a little redundant. Like some of these, it didn't need to be this big. There is another actually palette by Colourpop in this kind of a color scheme that I like a lot more. That's probably one of the highest ranked neutral palettes of this year. We'll say this one though is beautiful. It is called Sizzle. It's like a very fiery coral metallic. It's really, really nice. I also really like this one. It's called Death Valley. It's like a vanilla inner corner highlight with like a pale gold shimmers. It's really beautiful. So I think the quality of this one is good. It's just a little redundant for being this big. Here's another neutral palette. I thought this neutral palette was a really nice, well-rounded, well-done neutral palette. This is the Full Fantasy with Lunar Beauty and Laura Lee. And I think that this one is interesting. There is like some almost like bronzes. There is a duochrome here, like a plum with like a blue shift. There's also this like sparkly topper with almost like pinky blue shimmer to it. There's a matte inner corner highlight. There's shimmer inner corner highlights. There is a little olive corner down here. There's a matte black. I think they did a great job with this palette. Again, if you like neutrals and you're looking for something that's a little bit different, this might be that. I honestly think that this is really good quality. I think they did a really good job with that one. Here's a palette that I think is really good quality. The only reason is the color story, and this is the Ghost Town. Look at this one. This is a Ghost Town palette by Nomad, and I think the quality of this one is really good. No hard pressed shimmers. Everything just works really nice, but it's very cool toned, and it's almost like everything has a little bit of a gray tone to it, which... Don't take a shot every time I say I don't like gray eyeshadows. You will be blackout drunk. I take no responsibility. Not my favorite. Will say this greeny corner here, it's really nice. I like the blues a lot. There is like almost some neutrally browns here. It's just not my absolute favorite color story. For me, personally. Here is the Natasha Denona I Need a Dude. Again, if you look at this color story, and if you're looking at this and you're like, wow, this is my dream palette, this is great quality. I just don't reach for all neutral palettes like this often, but I will say it goes from really light to really dark, both in shimmers and in mattes. And I just think there's some nice with this like almost like a little bit of a peachy undertone that's going on. For me, that's very flattering. And if you're like me and you don't want to do orange eyeshadow, but you also don't want to do grays, this is a nice compromise to be like not warm neutrals, but also not grays. On me, this tends to look almost cool toned, especially these down here. But I realize if you have a cool undertone, it's not going to show up like that on you. I think this is great quality, definitely staying in my collection. Is it my favorite color story ever? No, but I totally understand why this is some people's favorite palette of the year, because if you love neutrals, I mean, this is it. Ace Beauté released some, I think that these were like floral palettes, fleur palettes, begonia, I don't know. But they released 4 different palettes. This is the begonia one. This is my favorite. This is called the Flora palette. Like, look at this yellow. I love that. And then there is a neutral one. And I like this neutral one because it has a gold and a silver. And then it is the fleur one. That is the purple one. I really like this one too because this one is light enough for me to use as an inner corner and it looks like really bright and fun. And I like that there is like some nice textures in these eyeshadows. I don't love that the pans are like this. I wish they weren't, I'm gonna be honest. I wish that these were just normal square pans instead. That would have made so much more sense for me. I love that they're small though, and I thought the quality of these were really good. I think that having them in a slim pan like this does mean that you have to press them a little harder. And I think that they probably would have been better off doing them in square pans. But I like this release. I thought it was a really nice one. I had fun with them. The looks that I've done with the palettes have been really nice. This is the Glamlight and Scooby-Doo palette, the round 2. This one, the packaging, it's heavy. Like, this is a heavy bitch. Like, you could kill someone with this palette. You fling this across the room, people are in danger, let me tell you. I don't love that there's so much space between the pans. The color story is okay, but not as interesting. Like, you will see some Glamlight palettes in the top. Let me tell you that. This one just wasn't my favorite. I didn't love the looks that I did. I thought it was okay. It was okay. It was okay. I'm not like blown away. I'm not blown away. This is the Glaminatrix Rich Romantic palette. I like, overall, okay. The mattes in this palette, love. Love the colors, love everything about them, love the color selection. I love the olivey, warm, mucky, like browns over here. The purple going into peach and red. Think the mattes are great. The shimmers, I think that right now, you can see there are 3 shades here that have like a green tint to it. And I think that that is maybe 1 or 2 too many in a palette like this. I think that I understand that like brands are very much into special shades, very much into duochromes, very much into multichromes, but I think that this palette would have benefited of not having 3 shades that have a green tint, because I don't think that that matches with everything. That's just my personal opinion. The quality is really beautiful though. Just threw me off a little bit because I just didn't think it worked 100% the color story. This is from Game Beauty. They released the Elemental Blast monochromatic palettes, and I really like these. I thought these were really fun. There are like monochromatic palettes that are really nice, and I like that it is like coral and pink and red and orange. Like, I like the color stories of these. I think that the purple one is really nice. There's like some really light ones. There's a dark one. There's even a multichrome in this one. And the green one is my favorite. I really like this color story. The cool tone, the warm tone, I just like everything. There is an iridescent shade up here with a little mushroom on it, like a green iridescent. And then we have the blue one. This is probably my least favorite one. I think it's good, but like, again, my least favorite. And then we have a neutral one that's actually a really nice neutral because it has a pop of this super bright orange in here, and also like some really nice light shades. One of these is a satin. They look like they're the same. One is a matte, one is a satin. I thought these were really nice. I was impressed with these. I love the looks that I've done. I think they're really nice. Here's another one from Glaminatrix. This is the Into the Night palette. I think this is really nice. I love this quality, and I love the... Okay, let me rephrase. I love the idea of this color story, but when I used it, I didn't love the combinations that I was able to do. And I don't know why. And I think for me, sometimes when I do looks, I try to combine too many elements. Today, I don't feel like I did do that, but sometimes I do. I'm like, I turn into wanting too much. And I love like a neon-y yellow in the palette. I mean, I've done that in my palette. I think that's amazing. I think for me, it's just one too many pops maybe here. It just throws me off a little bit. Overall though, I really like this palette. It's just not my absolute favorite palette from Glaminatrix, but I think it's a really nice one. Here's the next one by Didi's Signature. This is the Jingle Bell Ruby. This is her Christmas palette. Again, metallics. These are duochrome metallics. They're so foily, they're so beautiful, they're so shifty, they're wonderful on the eyes. The mattes are, again, okay. Not horrible, but not my favorites. But the shimmers, like especially this one, ooh, so pretty. This is the Bella Beauté Bar, the Sun and the Sea palette. I love the quality of Bella Beauté Bar, and I think this one is really good. I didn't love the blues. They were not my favorite in this palette, which is what's dragging it down a little bit, because I love blue eyeshadow, and I want my blue eyeshadow to be smooth and pigmented and grippy and buildable. These are okay, but not my favorite. The rest of them are really great quality, especially the shimmers. But these two blue, according to me, are a little bit too similar. I think this one should have been just a smidge lighter. And then these 4 browns, they're not the same, but I think they're too similar to have all 4 of them. But this brand has done some really good palettes this year. We'll get into that. Here is the next Hershey chocolate bar palette. This is the Cookies and Cream. I didn't think that I was gonna like love this palette, but these actually pull very blue on me. And there's like a blue metallic, there's a blue iridescent, there's a really light shade, and there's like a mustard in here. I like this color story a lot. I thought this was really good. I was surprised with how much I loved it, but I thought that one was good. Oh, now we're at the Colourpop palette that I said that there's like a smaller version of that palette going on. And this is the Rock On palette. Oh, it's so pretty. And this is the inside. And again, we have the red, yummy neutrals. There is like 3 more red shades. And then there is like 5 more neutral shades. I love this like warm, yummy brown with like silver glitter in it. This shade is so pigmented and beautiful. I love the red one. I just think this is beautiful. I think this is a great neutral palette if you love red tone neutrals like I do, and I really do. This is the Simply Posh Cozy Cabin palette. Great quality. Great quality. And even though I think that between this palette and the one that I'm going to rank in a bit, that is a cat hair. I think that this quality is better than the other one. I love the other color story so much that I simply cannot deny that that one is ranking higher because the color story is amazing. But this quality, they were really able to solve because they had some problems with some shadows being a little bit hard pressed. Not in this one. These are all so beautiful. I just think, again, these mattes that almost have a little bit of a gray cast over them, not my absolute favorite. Still think it's beautiful though, but I prefer the other one that I have from them a little bit more. This is the Gourmande Girls Warriors Wear Pink palette. Don't love the packaging, but I cannot deny, I love a red and pink color story. It's something I adore. I love a red and pink color story, and there's some purples in here. There's a purple like iridescent duochrome. There's a black. There's some neutrals in here. The only shadow that I don't love is this red one here. It's very hard pressed, so you have to like dig in there a little bit to get it to work. But once it's on the eyes, it's very pigmented, but it's not, this one isn't my favorite, but this is nice. And I love a pink and purple color story. I am so weak for that. This is a palette that's actually ranking really high, but I did declutter it because it is very similar to the Colourpop's The Child palette. They're now dupes, but I just realized I didn't need both in my collection, and I do prefer the other one, mainly because of the packaging. I said it. Do like this one though. It goes from really dark to really light. There's shimmers, there's mattes, there's even a duochrome. There are 2 browns in here. Overall, I think this is a really good color story. I think Colourpop did a good job with this one. I just have so many palettes, and you're gonna see that in tomorrow's video. I have hundreds of palettes. I just cannot keep them all. This is the Sigma and Angela Bright palette, and this is such good quality. I think that she must have been super picky with Sigma because she has some of the most pigmented mattes that I've ever seen in Sigma's palette. And Sigma usually does good eyeshadows, but these are pigmented. This red, ooh, she is not kidding around. This is really, really nice. And I like that she had like the mix between fiery red, some more peachy neutrals. There is a neutral corner over here. There are some teals. I think she did a really good job with the color story, and I think this is still available at the Sigma website. This palette was available in, I think, the big summer box at Unearthly Cosmetics. This is the Get Groovy. It's an eyeshadow and pressed pigment palette, and this is like a smaller, fun, summery rainbow palette, and it has 1 matte and 1 special shade. It's very, very sparkly. This one is, I think there's like 1 multi-chrome and a couple of duochromes. Incredibly sparkly shades. Incredibly sparkly shades, and just matte, sparkle, sparkle, matte, matte, sparkle, sparkle, matte. Like, they're beautiful. A lot of fun with this one. I think it's really, really beautiful, and I just like how fun and bright this was for being in a mystery box. I mean, I'm all about that. We all know that. This is the Lethal Cosmetics Wildflower palette. This is the follow-up palette to the Night Flower palette that I had last year. This is a really fun and bright color story, and I like this quality a lot more than I did the 2UP palette. I think these colors are stunning, especially this one here. It's like a duochrome. It's like an almost like a purple base with like this iridescent blue sheen. It's super pretty. I also really like this one. It is like a almost like a minty blue duochrome topper. Very beautiful. I think this palette is super fun. I will say though, I still do prefer the Nightflower palette. That is my favorite palette from Lethal Cosmetics. It is so beautiful. And here comes the Simply Posh palette, where technically the other one has better quality, but this color story is so me. And I have heard rumors that they're gonna re-release this one or like restock it, and hopefully they will have fixed the issue where there is some pressing issues. Because this one, for example, is like a red to a green duochrome. It's just very, very hard pressed, and it's hard to pick it up from the pan. And I know there's like 1 or 2 shadows like that in here, and I like 1 or 2 of them, the duochromes, because all of these are duochromes, and 1 or 2 of the mattes also has that like tight pressed formula, and I hope they fix that when they restock this one, because the color story, this is like a fun tropical palette, just perfection. I really like how this one is looking. This sour, that's like a green with the purple shift, so beautiful. I really like this palette. The more I look at it, I'm like, I really like this color story. I think it is absolutely beautiful. This is probably the biggest pastel palette in my collection. I really do love Bella Beauté Bar, but they did some, ooh, I'm having a hair. They did some really, really big palettes this year, but I can't deny, oh, here's the hair. Hello. I can't deny that I really, really like the quality, but this could have been condensed a little bit. But the like duochrome formula in here, they're so stunningly beautiful, and I really do like the mattes as well. But is it too big? Yeah, it's too big. I mean, I can't deny that this is too big, but if you are looking for a pastel palette that has everything, I mean, this might be it. It's beautiful. This palette came out for Valentine's Day, but it's like the first horror collab that Glamlight did this year, and this is the Chucky and Glamlight palette. I think this palette is really nice, but it is very dark, and there is some contrast in this palette because of this like super bright silver, and I kind of wish that one of these super dark shades here would have been another contrast. Maybe a super light like gray, like maybe something else, maybe a white, just something to be a little bit more contrasty, because I would have liked this even more, because on me a couple of these shades look very similar, but also like when you open this, it's like such a vibe when you open this. So overall, I think the quality is really beautiful. It's just not a color story that I wear a lot, because it is leaning a very cool tone, and also all of these shades are very dark. Now we're getting into more nitpicky things of like the reasons why these aren't my favorites. So there's been a lot of really, really good palettes being released this year. Like, we are getting into like good palettes. Oh my god, my hair is annoying me. Can I put it behind my ears? Have I looked cute long enough now? And I can just I want to be comfy. Let me live. This is the Nomad Royal Europe palette. I love this packaging. It's like 3D. I really like it. I have no idea where they got that, but listen, I am a fan. This one has 5 multi-chromes. So these are true multi-chromes, you can see. Multi-chromes with just 2 rows of mattes. And overall, I really love this one. There is nothing in this, again, it is 2 rows of pretty dark shades. I just wish, again, like these 4 here, they're not the same, but they're similar enough. These 4 here, they're not the same, but they're similar enough. 1 or 2 of these could have been just something to complement the look, because none of these work as an inner corner highlight either. Just, it's very dark leaning, even though I think the quality is beautiful and I think it is really pretty. It's not perfect. That's where we are at right now. And it is the same with this one. This is the Machina palette by Blend Money. This is her latest palette. I really love the front. I think this is super, super cute. And I love that she actually like did something for her front. The palette, I don't necessarily love the inside, because I feel like the inside is a little harsh. It's a little, because the red throws it off. I just kind of wish that this wasn't here. I feel like that throws it off a little bit. If that wasn't here, I feel like this would just be better. I feel like this row here just makes it a little harsh, but that's just my personal opinion. Again, we're down to nitpicky things. Quality is beautiful. I love the topper shades down here. And overall, I've had a really good time with this palette and I love the looks that I've done. So again, nitpicky. Is this the highest ranked neutral palette? Maybe this is the Sorcerer's Smoke by Unearthly Cosmetics. I love these new longer format palettes that Unearthly Cosmetics is doing. This again, it's a little bit of an olive corner. There is a smoky corner. I love this one. It is like almost a plum. You see that? Like a plum dark purple duochrome. I did a smoky eye with this one. I absolutely loved it. And then we have some neutrals in the middle that are leaning a little bit more peachy warm. I really like this palette. I think this is a really good neutral palette. Again, is it an inner corner highlight for me? No. Am I the only one using inner corner highlights? Is that what's like lacking in so many palettes? Let me know. What do you think? I mean, I have some of my favorite inner corner highlights that I will reach for when a palette doesn't have it. But I also like when palettes do have it. This is the Fantasy Cosmetica palette that I've liked the most this year, and this is the Rogue palette. I really like this one, even though I do not like playing rogues in any game, but the palette? Oh, it's so pretty. I feel like these mattes, I really loved working with them. I love that there is a black, or is it a black? I think it's a black, a dark green, and it's like this minty sea foamy thing that also actually works together with the green. And then you have this purple that also works with the blue, or these mattes make sense. These mattes make sense in the way that I didn't think the Warlock one did. And then the four shimmers are gorgeous. Do you see this one? The lilac to blue. Oh, so pretty. Really like this palette. This is my favorite palette from Fantasy Cosmetica so far. I think this one is beautiful. This is the Gourmande Girls Haunted palette. This one was really nice for Halloween. It has a really fun color story, and I like that there is like green, yellow, there's also some more purple shades, so you can go in different directions, and I also really like these green shades here. I just thought this was a really fun palette. I love the color story. It's a little bit more on the colorful side, but listen, that's what I love. Is this one of the most highest ranked mainstream palettes this year? Well, not counting Natasha Denona, but like I'm surprised too that we are seeing the Too Faced Italian Spritz here. I really like this palette. Listen, I'm gonna stick my neck out and say, I really like this palette. I thought this was a great palette. I loved the mattes. And again, I am a picky matte girly. I think the shimmers were really beautiful too. Some of them were a little bit crumbly, but I always spray my brush because I try to avoid too much fallout. And I thought if you pick it up with your brush and spray your brush, they performed beautifully. I loved all the looks that I did, and I just thought this was great. It also smells sweet, and I'm not against that. I liked it. I thought it was beautiful. This is another big palette by Bella Beauté Bar. This is the Smoky Glam palette. If this had been a 16-pan palette, this would have been top 15. Beautiful. These colors up here, the metallics, the duochromes, they're so special. They're so beautiful. I love that there is a black and a white. And then these peachy, pinky, berries, purples. Beautiful. But there are too many shades. And some of these are very similar, and we didn't need all of them. It's a beautiful palette. It really is. If you love this color story, if you look at this and you're like, wow, that's my dream palette, let me tell you, the quality, outstanding. It's just too big. It is just too big, but the quality of this one, it is really beautiful. Here we have another palette by, almost dropped it, by Unearthly Cosmetics. This is the Surrender palette. This was the palette for Valentine's Day. And again, it's like a little nod to neutrals almost, which is something that Unearthly Cosmetics doesn't do a lot. But also it's pinks with reds, and I love pinks with reds, especially like these like baby pinks here together with the bright red. Ugh. It is so pretty. And now that I look at it, I'm like, I want to have pink and red again on my eyes. Maybe I'll do that tomorrow. I'm invited to a Christmas party tomorrow. Can you do pink and red for Christmas? You can, right? I feel like I can. Really love this one. I don't think it's sold separately, but listen, it was beautiful. I'm just ranking these just to let you know that like the palettes that come in the mystery boxes from Unearthly Cosmetics, They're beautiful. And this isn't even the highest ranked of the ones from the mystery ones. This is the Lunar Beauty Siren Sunset. These are the best shimmers that Lunar Beauty has ever done. They are so wonderful. There's even a multi-chrome in here. I think you can see it's like a gold, purple, blue. So beautiful. The look that I did with this palette, I absolutely loved it. This iridescent green is stunning. This would have been even more on top if we have taken out one of these three browns and given me a light blue or light purple. Just something else to blend these out into that isn't a beige. I love colorful shadows. I don't want to blend out my purple or my blue into a beige. I realize that that's not everyone, but it is me. Here is Nomad's Verona palette. This is called Verona Amore e Morte. Am I saying that correctly? It doesn't feel correctly. It is like one side that is death and one side that is love. And I love pink and red together. Don't take a shot every time I say that either, because this will be the last video you ever watch. I love this one. I think the quality is really good. I love that there are some blues and some nice tones on the other side. Again, did I need all of these gray shades? No, that's not my favorite color story, but I thought that this one was really good and I really liked it. I also really enjoyed the Aurora Struck by Colourpop. Damn, I love the looks that I did with this one. They were so beautiful. Again, I don't love big palettes like this, but at least with this one, there is a color story going on, and not with that like Smoking Hot palette. It was all like brown and red, the different oranges. This one has like blues and greens and purples and pinks. The only thing I wish this palette had is a dark purple matte. That would have made this palette even more versatile. Dark purple matte would have been perfect for this palette, but this was a great palette. I still recommend this one. I think it's beautiful. Remember I said that I'm a matte girly? I love mattes, and I love the Bella Beauté bar mattes, and I love this palette that only has mattes. This is expensive and it is very heavy, and it's because this is magnetized, so you can pull these out and you can rearrange them, and I have not done that. I've just left them as is, but these are great mattes, and I love good mattes, and honestly, I think this is beautiful. I think this is stunning, and I think there are some really unexpected shades in here. There are some neons, or like almost neons. There are some neutrals. There are some like murky greens. There are some poppy ones. There are some really fun ones in here, and it's like a little unexpected, and I approve of it. It's heavy though, and big. I feel like that's the thing with Bella Beauté bar. They did some really big palettes, but they did do a couple of smaller palettes come later this year. And those will be in a bit. Here's another big palette. And this is great. I love this one. This is the Juvia's Place Culture 2, but damn, she is big. She is big and she is juicy. I love that there are some lighter mattes here. Again, that's just something that makes my heart sing. When I can get some contrast, both in the mattes and in the shimmers, I just really, really like that. This here is such a beautiful duochrome. I love this corner over here. There's just some interesting shades in here, and I had a lot of fun with this palette. I thought it was great. This is the Glamlight Camp Crystal Lake. I have not watched this movie. This is from Friday the 13th. I really like this color story. I thought it was really good. At least here you have like a really bright shimmer if you want to have something for the inner corner. I thought it was great with the red and the blue and the green, and then almost like cool tone greens, and then like warm tone greens going into neutrals. I thought it was great. I thought it was good quality. I really like this palette. Again, do I wish it makes sense with the theme. Not every palette can be for you, Angie. Or, this is so unexpected, but remember how I said I love blue eyeshadow? This is the Blue Velvet from Colourpop. If you want to go into bright blue eyeshadow, this one is affordable. You can find it in store at Target. That's where I bought mine. It's beautiful. It's truly beautiful. I really enjoy it. The only reason why this isn't that top, honestly, is because it has one of those glitter shadows. I wish it didn't, but I really like this one. I think it is beautiful. Great blue eyeshadows. This is that other Game Beauty palette that I talked about. This is the Metaverse palette. This is also part of their Persona 5 collab. I love these murky tones. I think these are beautiful. These, especially this one, is so beautiful. They're pigmented, they're rich. I really, really like this palette. I thought it was really good. And when they came out with this one, this is where I was like, oh, Game Beauty is really onto something. I like the quality a lot of this one, and the looks that I created, I really did enjoy. This is the Blend Bunny Sugar and Grunge palette. This came out, I want to say this summer. Is that correct? I might be lying. This is in true Blend Bunny fashion. It is a palette that has different rows of colors. I love the raspberry row. I really love the grass green row. I think overall that this was a nice one. There is a gray row. There is a more peachy neutral row. There are some shimmers down here. I know people were upset that they were not in the right order. Personally, I don't really care, but I understand where people are coming from. They want the symmetry. I totally get it. I think this is really good quality. I feel like this somewhere where I was asking Blend Bunny to just shake it up a little bit, and she definitely has since then, and I do appreciate that a lot. But I really like this one. I thought the color story is great. I love the looks that I did, and I love the undertone of that upper row. It's beautiful. This was the year that I tried Ensley Rain. I think this is the year that everybody tried Ensley Rain. This is the Harvest Moon palette. I don't know what I was expecting, but I don't think I was expecting this good quality. And I say this with love, I didn't think that it was going to be this great. These are amazing quality. The mattes are amazing. Some of these are a little bit, like it fits the theme. It fits the theme. Like I get it. I see it. I understand. I hear you. I just wish that we could have gotten maybe one matte that was a little lighter. I am a broken record. I'm tired of myself too. Listen, it's not just you. I'm tired of myself too. But on the eyes, all of these are very dark. So I wish there would have been something here to break it up a little bit, even though this does make sense for the palette. It really does. User-friendly wise, it would have helped with the blending shade for sure. But these are... This is an expensive palette, but it is a nice palette. This is the palette where Blend Bunny decided to switch it up a little bit. I kind of like a chaotic palette. I don't mind it at all. This was meant to emulate, this was the palette that came out for Halloween. This was meant to emulate like the chaoticness of like a bag of candy. I like it. It's a pastel palette. It has a bunch of mattes, a couple of shimmers, and it has some dark shades thrown in here as well, so you can do a full look. Really, really like them. My favorite shade is this one, Glow Stick. Oh, it's so pretty on. It's absolutely beautiful. But yeah, I love a bunch of these shades. The I'm Fine is beautiful too. I think this is, again, it's a beautiful pastel palette. It is a little bit more condensed, and I think it's a little cheaper than the one from Bella Beauté bar. And I'm gonna be totally honest with you, I do prefer the shimmers in the Bella Beauté bar. So if you're attracted to shimmers, you might like that one more. And this one also has a couple of dark shades, which is something that's appealing to me. But if you only want the pastel ones, the other one might be better because the quality is great. Okay, we are in the top 20, and remember how I told you I was going to give you swatches of the top 15? Yeah, I'm already regretting that. Mistakes have been made, and I wish I'd never said it, but listen, a promise is a promise. Friends don't lie. This is the Arttitude Cosmetics Obsession palette. This was the first year that I tried this palette. Well, yeah, it came out this year. Wow. I think I need a glass of wine. No, this was the first year I tried this brand, and this is the first palette that I've tried from the brand. And guys, this is stunning. This is beautiful. I love the color story. Again, we have some light shades, we have some brights, we have some murky tones, we have some neutrals. There is variety here. There is variety. There's so many things you can do, and I really enjoy the formula. I think this was really beautiful to work with. I thought this was a winner, and I cannot wait to see what they are doing in the future. That was lovely. This is from the Halloween mystery box with Unearthly Cosmetics. This is the Devour palette, and this one you can buy individually. Like, you can just buy the palette. And are you prepared? This is so beautiful. These might look like nothing. Well, you can see here, it's a green iridescent. It is like a pink to a green, and there is like a gold to a peach. I don't know if this makes sense at all, but it's like there are some iridescent shades here with different undertones, and they are stunning. You can use them as highlighter. You can top them on top of anything here. Use them as inner corner highlighters. They're like beautiful, and I love that this is like almost like red and green color story. but just not holiday. Really like it, and the cover is really cool. I thought this was beautiful, and I thought it was really fun that she was selling this as a single as well. As I'm filming this, I have not tried her holiday palette. It's on its way to me, but I cannot wait to try it. This is the Nightshade palette. This is the Gourmande Girls palette that she came out with, I think like summer. I really like this one. I love this dark corner here. This metallic here that is like almost a dark plummy brown. Super beautiful. There's an iridescent shade. There is some purples. There is this like bright yellow with lime green sheen. And there's this dark plum matte. Really enjoyed this one. I think this is beautiful. I think this is beautiful. And this one, such a nice like, almost like a satin duochrome. Super beautiful. I really like that palette. I thought it was beautiful. Is this the highest ColourPop palette? This might be the highest ColourPop palette. I might be lying, but I don't think I am. No, I am lying. There is a ColourPop palette that's higher than this. This is the second to highest, and this is the Legends of Korra. This is the palette I talked about before. This is the only palette that I saved the sleeve for. This one and the Avatar: The Last Airbender, because the sleeves are so beautiful. But this is what it looks like, and I really like this one. Do you see what I mean? That this was just like a... It was like that Naruto palette was like a bootleg this one. This one is nice. It's green, it's reds and oranges and yellows. There's this beautiful like marbled shade here. That's like a black, wet black metallic. There's a blue iridescent. Like there are some really nice things going on here. And really nice quality. The mattes are super pigmented. Really did like this palette. I thought it was great. Are you looking forward to the... Avatar: The Last Airbender, the non-cartoon one that's coming to Netflix next year? I'm very excited. This is the Bella Beauté Bar Bejeweled palette. Don't love the cover. I think it's a little plain. There are so many things you could have done, especially with like having in mind what's inside here. But this is just, if you love jewel tones, this just has everything. Different textures, different undertones. Really, really like this one. Again, this one, I need something else with this one. It's too dark on its own, but this one together with a pastel palette or this one together with a neutral palette, absolutely stunning. And I can't deny the quality of this one is beautiful. So if you love jewel tones, this will be your go-to best palette. Okay, top 15. I'm going to show you some swatches and hopefully you will see why these are the top 15 best palettes I have tried this year. Except, of course, like the palettes I mentioned in the beginning, like my palettes, Heather's palette. This is another one from Bella Beauté Bar. This is the recently de-influenced palette. Personally, I don't love the theming. It's not my favorite theming, but the color story is bomb. It's really beautiful. There's two iridescent shades. There are some duochromes, multichromes. The mattes are really bomb. I really, really like how this one looks. Not my favorite palette from Bella Beauté Bar this year, but it is a really, really good one. Such a stunning palette. Such a stunning palette. I think a lot of you, including me, really discovered the potential of this brand this year. This is a stunning palette. This palette is one of my most used palettes from ColourPop. Absolutely love this one. I dip into this palette a lot. And I think a lot of you were surprised when I put this one pretty high up in one of my rankings this year. And this is the Flirty Talk palette. This one came out for Valentine's Day and it's a red and pink palette. Don't throw things at me, okay? I'm doing the best I can here. But it is beautiful. These are very pigmented reds, very nice pigmented light shades as well. There is an iridescent pink Super Shock over here. You can use that on your cheeks as well. There is some really sparkly shades. There is a white with pink shimmer in here, and it is such a pigmented inner corner highlight or to brighten up. It's just beautiful. I love this one. And also the background of this palette, because it is baby pink, makes all of these shades look very pink, but this is pretty much a true red. Lil Red Dress. That's very red. Here we have the palettes from Oden's Eye, and when they did the Legendary Diversa with 3 different influencers this year. And this is, the first one is with Amanda from Makeup Just for Fun. She did this really, really beautiful, more muted purpley green story. Absolutely stunning. I love Oden's Eye. It's one of my favorite brands. I love their formulas. I think their color stories are always great. And when they get to work with influencers, they usually do some really, really good stuff. And it's just a formula that I love to work with. This is Batty Bean's palette. This is the Planet Spirit palette. It's so bright and fun. First time I opened this, I'm like, ooh, that's bright. But the looks that I've done with this one, these together are fire. So beautiful. And the Fauna one is so sparkly and pretty. Yeah, these are great. Such a fun palette. And then we have Laura May Beauty's palette. This is the Sea Talk palette. I love shades like this, like an unexpected pop. This is beautiful. Again, she did such a good job. And I feel like she was able to stay true to herself as well with the neutrals, with the pop of chartreuse. We all know she loves that. And then just some really nice shimmery topper shades. I think this is really stunning. I've really been enjoying this. I think it's beautiful. Okay, another palette from Unearthly Cosmetics. This is the Don't Be Jelly palette. This is so pretty. Look at that. Look at how pretty that is. I really enjoy this one. This one has a couple of more shimmers than her other palettes. Again, I'm a matte girly. I love mattes, but these are really, really nice. And I love the unexpected pop of like the almost not mint green, but like, I don't know, muted pea. Peas and mashed potatoes. I don't know, but I just think that this is a really pretty color story. I had a lot of fun with this one. There are some, like there's a multichrome in here. I don't know if you can see here. It's just really pretty. I love also that she puts topper shades in her palettes. I think that's really beautiful. Last year, if you saw this video from me last year, you know that Cosmic Brushes was the palette that was #1 last year. It was the Serenity palette, was #1 last year. And this year she has released a couple of palettes. And as you probably have noticed, I haven't mentioned a single one of them yet. And this is because just like Oden's Eye, Cosmic Brushes just does a formula and does color stories and does a mix of textures and a little matte heavy that I just love. So this is the first one I'm gonna mention, and this is the Muse palette. This came out earlier this year. This was a little bit more of a muted, grungy palette. I love the formulas. I love the textures and just the quality. The only reason why this is the last one of the ones that she has released is because this one, unlike any of her other palettes, does not have a matte inner corner highlight for me. Again, we are down to petty, petty, petty small things, but I gotta clock them for something because these are great palettes. This is my favorite Blend Bunny palette of the year. This is the Lure palette. I really, really like the cover of this one. I think it's really beautiful. And I really like the color story of this one. I love the looks that I did. And these are the kind of cool toned neutrals I actually like the taupey but still brown. They're still brown, but they're cool toned. Really like the shimmers. I love the blue, the turquoise, and the green. I think it just, everything looks beautiful together. Love the undertones again, like almost like bright pastels. I had a lot of fun with this palette. I think this one is really, really beautiful. I think she did a great job with this one. Now I'm like, I want to use it again. These are really nice ones. These are the 2 new holiday palettes that Oden's Eye released this year. Last year they released the Merry Christmas and the Christmas Eve palettes. I'm not gonna rank those again this year. I'm fairly sure they ranked as #2 last year, and I still think that these are really, really good. I don't love these color stories. This is the Snow Dream as much as I did the color stories last year, but like these are stunning. I love, again, pastels together with dark shades, a mix of some neutrals in this one. There are light shimmers, there are dark shimmers. There's even a hollow shadow in here. I think this one is a really nice twist on like reds and greens for the holiday, but make it a little bit more muted and a little bit more, not as dark and bright as some of their other palettes. I think it's really stunning. The second one is the Hey Reindeer palette, and I think out of the 2, I think this one is my favorite because this one has some really nice like pastel-y muted blue tones, and it has pink and red together. I really love pink and red. I love pink and red together, I love yellow and brown together, and I love blue eyeshadows. Sue me. We all have our thing. Again, it's a little lighter than the palettes that they had last year. Really do like the tones that are in here, but you have this dark shade that you can deepen up with if you want to. I just think these palettes are really pretty, and I really enjoy the quality. And just like my collab palettes, I'm fairly sure that these are still available, but once both of these are out, they're gone. So this is the Delicious Delights from Cosmic Brushes. This one was released this summer, right? I'm fairly sure this was released this summer. This was just a really, it's almost like bright pastels. Like these two shades are incredibly fun. I love this blue down here. Absolutely beautiful. I love that there is a little bit of an, if you didn't know, if you do a mustard and then mix together with the berry shade, you're gonna get almost like a warm neutral crease. I'm just letting you know, if you're looking for like a brown and you can't find it, mixing these together and it's gonna turn into a warm neutral crease, which is really pretty. There is an iridescent shade down here. It's super beautiful. This one looks untouched, and it's because it almost is. I wonder if I swatched this at all, because I got one and mine was broken. This one was broken and it was all over, and that's the one I've been using, but now I've been keeping this one that's unused. And I wanna dig into this one again. So beautiful. I love this palette. I just keep looking at it. It's so pretty. Big fan. Big fan. This was a fun palette. This was a fun palette. Okay, here's the second palette that I have tried from Ensley Rain, and this is the Lands of Enchantment. When they showed this palette on Instagram, I mean, so this is a mix of jewel tones and pastels and toppers and even some hollow shades. There's multi-chrome, there is duochromes, and even is a couple of mid-tone shades in here so you can blend. I just think that this color story is genius. And the quality of Ensley Rain, honestly, I don't want to say shocking, but I'm always a little bit almost shocked when an indie brand comes from nowhere and their quality is just like, because it is such nice quality. Really, really enjoyed this one. Is it a little bit too big? Maybe. Do I need this? Because these little wells are that you can rearrange the shadows. It makes a palette heavier and it makes a palette more expensive. I don't need that. I'd rather pay less and have them in there. But I know for some people, they actually rather pay those extra $10, $15, $20 sometimes just to be able to move them around. Personally, it doesn't bother me, but this palette is so stunning. They did a great job with this one. This is a winner. I think this is palette number 6, the one that almost made it to top 5. This is the Bella Beauté Bar Basic Witch palette. So beautiful. This is my favorite palette from Bella Beauté Bar this year. I think this is a fun color story with some unexpected elements. Like the yellow, again, you can use it with the berries, and there is a lavender purple that's stunning in the corner, and then you have an almost smoky grayish purple and a green, and it's just, everything just works so well together. The duochromes and the multichromes in this one really work with the color scheme and really takes you from one shade to another. I just think that this palette is, not only is it amazing quality, the color story is just so well thought out that everything just works really well together, and I really love it. This is a blue to a green. Stunning. And this one, oh my god, it's so beautiful. It has almost like a greenish gold. You see the green there? And then to this like almost orangey peach. Stunning. Okay, top 5. If you watched my Best of Beauty that was live yesterday, you already know which the top 5 is, because I usually include it in the best products of the year. If you want to see what my other favorite products were this year, that video was live yesterday. In case you want to see what I like in like foundations and blushes and skincare and all of that, that was yesterday's video. And I always do like the top of the palettes from my ranking there, but I don't let you know in which order I put them. So now I'm gonna let you know my top 5 in the correct order. So this is going to be the Unearthly Cosmetics Fall Magic palette. I think this is stunning. This is one of those palettes that if you love neutrals, you're going to look at this and be like, oh, interesting. If you love colors, you're going to look at this and be like, oh, interesting. There is something you can use for inner corner highlight here. It is called Crisp, and it is a very nice, super pigmented and just high quality iridescent green shade. I love a matte inner corner, but I can't deny that this looks great in the inner corner. These just work so well together. Everything just works well together, and it's just such a stunning palette. The shimmers are so sparkly, so special. There is like some duochrome action in here, and they, like, look at that. Like, did you see that? Very high quality palette, absolutely stunning. I think a lot of people will truly enjoy this one. Number 4 is my favorite glam light palette of the year, and that is the Rick and Morty palette. I did not expect to love this one. I don't even watch Rick and Morty. I hardly know about the cartoon. My husband has been watching it a bit, but not really the past years. And also when I saw this one, I'm like, oh, it's a rainbow palette. But when I opened it, it is such a bright, almost like, I don't know, it's like an 80s arcade game rainbow palette. It is so bright, it is so vibrant, it is so fun, and I love the shimmers. They're so sparkly, they're so nice. There are some light colors, there's some mid-tone, there's some dark. Do I wish that these were even lighter? Yes, I do. But there are also a white metallic here and an iridescent blue that I can use as an inner corner highlight if I want to. And honestly, the dark down here, like this palette is bomb. This palette is bomb, and it was sold out for a really long time. And I can't imagine the reason being anything else than this palette is bomb. And everybody knows. And if you didn't know, now you know. If you love colors, this might be for you. I've had so much fun with this one. I mean, it is top 4 of all the palettes I've tried this year. Literally tried 100 palettes worse than this one this year. Number 3 is gonna be the palettes that Oden came out with this summer. This is from the Jord Divine collection. Jord means earth or soil in Swedish. I'm Swedish if you didn't know. And this is the Jewels and Gem palette, and this is what it looks like. This is almost like their play on neutrals without making it pure neutrals, because there is like a blue in here. There are some almost pinky mauve shades. There are a multi-chrome in here. There's some duochromes, different textures. This is one of the things that I really love with Oden. They keep me on my toes. There are different textures. Some are toppers, some are opaque. There's just different things going on, and I love how this palette looked on the eyes. Absolutely beautiful. And again, one of my favorite formulas out there. And then we have the Stone and Rock palette, which is more of a warmer color story, because this one has like the greens. I love this like yucky, almost mustard green. There is a dark green up here. There is a black and a white here and a green iridescent. And this one is a multi-chrome. It is, you can see, it's a blue going to dark green, going to forest green. Very, very cute. I just, again, it is just one of those palettes that me as a color lover, I look at this and I'm like, wow, that's beautiful. And people who love neutrals, they look at this and they're like, wow, that's beautiful. I just think they did a really, really good job with these palettes, keeping the quality high, doing something that's a little bit more muted than they normally do, but still keeping it interesting. Okay, number 2, and if you've been watching my channel, you already know which 2 palettes are left, but these are my opinions. These are what I think are the best palettes that have been released this year. Natasha Denona Yucca palette. I love it. Absolutely love it. This is my favorite Natasha Denona palette ever. I think this is a genius color story. It really takes you from citrusy green to a bright green to more yucky, almost like swampy colors, and then into almost like a warm yellow orange corner with a dark brown. There's some really interesting undertones here. Everything just works together, and just like with Oden's Eye, Natasha Denona keeps you on your toes because she gives you different formulas, sparkly ones, duochromes, some cream to powder ones, some matte ones. Really love it, and I love that there is this inner corner highlight that is so zesty and beautiful. I think it's stunning. I think it's stunning. Best palette Natasha Denona has ever made. I know a bunch of you purchased this palette as well, and I hope you love it as much as I do. I love mine. Number 1, Say it with me. I just love this one. I can't deny. It is beautiful. This is the Cosmic Beauty's Winter Wonderland palette. As much as I have said in this whole video, I love red with pink, my absolute favorite eyeshadow color is blue. Blue is my favorite. Blue makes me feel confident. It makes me feel like a bad bitch. It just makes me feel so fun. And this is just all the different shades and undertones I could wish for. It is blues, it is turquoises, mints, even going into purples. There are two multichromes. You see this one, purple, blue, green. And then you have this one that looks like ice. You see on the front with like the peach to blue. It's like a peach going to a purple, going to almost a sea foamy green. And then it's just, I don't know what to say. I think this palette is stunning. The formulas that Cosmic Beauty does is just the formulas that I like. Pigmented, buildable, it has a little grip to it. It's like, it's pigmented enough so that you can just use one shadow in your crease and get good pigmentation, and you don't need to be finicky about it. But it's also buildable to the point that you can start with something light and start building and end with something dark. If you love blue eyeshadow, this is stunning. And again, I mean, that's one of the things that drew me like to create something like this, because I wanted to make blue eyeshadows. But I gotta say, it's really brave of them to do a fully blue palette, because it is one of those shades that people are a little afraid of. I don't want to say for good reason, because I don't think so. It's beautiful, fun, vibrant color, but it takes a little bit more thought when working with it so you don't overblend and turn it into something muddy. But this is my favorite palette of the year. I think it's stunning. I think it's beautiful. It's near and dear to my heart. And that's just how I feel. Oh my god, my hair has totally given up. I am warm. I need a break. I need a glass of wine. I need a pep talk. This video has been going on for forever. Please let me know which is your favorite palette of the year. I would love to hear your thoughts. Is there anything in this video that you agree with, that you disagree with? Remember, we can be friends and still disagree. You do not need to be angry with me over colored powder. It is okay. I totally respect if you disagree with me. It's all personal preference, right? We all like different things. I hope you enjoyed the video though. Don't forget to subscribe before you leave, and I will see you again tomorrow for my palette declutter. It's gonna be a long one. Bye!